The other two, reason number 2, why we are struggling with gender roles is, tuseme tu kweli, it is selfishness.
Hi guys, how are you? I'm fine.
I'm finer. She's finest.
Yeah. We really take time to come back on camera because we try and bulk shoot. So sometimes when you come back and see us awkward, we don't know how to start things. It's because it's been a while. But parenting,
just handling parenting and day jobs and every other thing.
Yes, it's a lot.
We're glad to be back.
Yeah. We are happy that we can shoot this video for you guys.
Yeah, so this topic is interesting. We've been wanting to talk about this for a long time because a lot of you ask us, hey Curtis, how did you guys navigate this? It's also been a quite, I don't want to say an issue, but it's been something we've really had to navigate throughout our marriage. And this is whether gender roles still matter in a 21st century marriage. What do you think?
Roles are there, but I think it's good to probably define what are roles.
Good start. Now, number 1. First of all, a lot definitions are very important because how you understand something will determine how how you respond to it. One issue or one challenge that I think a lot of couples make is when you start talking about gender roles, the first thing that comes to people's mind is who is cleaning, who is washing, who is cooking, who is paying the bills, who is taking out the trash, who's changing the bulbs, who is the plumber, who is blah blah blah. Those are not roles, those are chores. Alright? A lot of people, when they're talking about gender roles, what they're really referring to is house chores.
Yeah.
Alright? Gender roles are not chores. Gender roles are, how would I put it? Okay, roles have genders, let me say that. Chores don't. Okay? Roles have genders, chores don't. Also, sometimes a gender role can find expression through chores, and I'll explain as we go. Right now, it still sounds like, Curtis, what the heck are you talking about? But as I explain, you'll understand it. Now, one of the roles, as I've explained, chores are basically domestic things. Who's taking care of this, who's washing, who's cooking, who's doing that. Roles are not really domestic things, they are more of identity things. Okay? They are more of identity things, and I would say they are more of spiritual assignments, like what you are assigned spiritually. By the fact of you being a man, by the fact of you being a woman.
Can I?
Alright?
Yeah, okay.
So you've Googled. Let me see what Google says.
Yeah. This is Wikipedia. A gender role, also known as a sex role, is a social role encompassing a range of behaviors and attitudes that are generally considered acceptable, appropriate, or desirable for a person based on a person's sex.
Okay.
I want to find another one if there is.
Okay.
Also, gender roles in society means how we are expected to act, speak, dress, groom, and conduct ourselves based upon our assigned sex.
This is from Planned Parenthood.
Of course, you know.
You see how they've structured their language. People listen to Planned Parenthood. Gender roles in society, it's very important that they put society, means how we are expected. Alright, listen to their language, how we are expected to act, speak, dress, groom, conduct ourselves. I like the first Nini.
The wiki one,
yes.
The Wikipedia one.
Yeah, just read that again.
Known as sex role is a social role encompassing a range of behaviors and attitudes that are generally considered acceptable, appropriate, or desirable for a person based on a person's sex.
I think I prefer this one. The second one sounds, how do I say, it sounds sensational. But anyway, now this is an area of controversy, especially in today's world, you know, with the whole woke culture. Why is society trying to make men like this, where we are trying to make gender become malleable in something of the sort. So it's a very sensitive topic. It's not supposed to be, but I think just how society is nowadays, we've made it sensitive. But this is what I would say. One of them, there are 3 reasons, according to me. There could be more, but according to me, there are 3 reasons why people struggle with gender roles. Now, as I explain these points, I'll be elaborating more on what gender roles are. I think there are 3 reasons why people struggle. Number 1, lack of understanding. You see, if you don't understand what something is, you're going to struggle to do it, even if it's a good thing. I remember just recently I had this bug that has been going on in Nairobi, and I had this tonsillitis for about 4 or 5 weeks. And the first week I went to the doctor told me, oh, your tonsils are inflamed, don't take sugar, don't take cold stuff. I was given antibiotics and I went home. But who is Curtis? I went home and they took sugary stuff and they took cold stuff. Second week I was back to the hospital. You're still inflamed. Don't take sugary stuff, don't take cold stuff. But who is your guy over here? Went back, took sugary stuff. By the time I was hitting the 4th week, I was like, I am now tired of these things. If the doctor said I don't take sugary stuff and I don't take cold stuff, I really have to stop. So for the sake, because now it was becoming a health issue, it was no longer fun and games. So for the sake of my tonsillitis and me being well, I stopped taking sugar for a while, even in my tea. And obviously, I got better. Now, the illustration in this point is, or rather the point in this illustration is, the moment I understood why I had to stop taking sugar, it became easier for me to actually follow through with that instruction. I no longer struggled because now it was about my health. Same thing with gender roles. The moment you understand why it is that you are doing something, you stop struggling. Now, in our context, when we talk about gender roles, a lot of us think about who is cooking, who is providing. Now, like I said, roles are not chores, but sometimes roles find expression in chores. Now, the biblical narrative tells us that husband, love your wives. Wives, submit and honor your husbands. Those are the 2 roles. As far as roles is concerned, the role of the wife is to submit and honor the husband. The role of the man or the husband is to love and cherish the wife.
So,
right?
We are having this conversation in the context of marriage, right?
It is marriage we're having this conversation. Alright? Now, someone might say, okay, so why does Soila have to cook for you? You know, especially when you hear how people talk nowadays. Cooking
is a chore.
It is a chore.
But it can easily find
But the role can find expression in that chore. This is how it is. You see, if as a husband, my role is to love you, one of the significant ways in which I demonstrate love to you is through giving. Giving and providing. For God so loved the world that He gave. One of the biggest signs that you love somebody is that you give, you provide for them. Alright? So, I can easily say, Soila has a job. Soila is an educated woman. She graduated with what?
Don't go there.
No,
I graduated.
Me, I'm so proud of you.
No, I graduated.
She graduated with 2nd class. Oh no.
let's do
I'm so proud of you.
Babe, stop.
I feel like it's me.
No.
Yeah, she gets awkward compliments. But I can easily say she can provide for herself. You know, she has skills, she has talents, she's educated, she can go and provide for herself. And I'll be right according to the eyes of society to say that. But I understand that in me providing for her, there is a principle that I am applying, and that is the principle of love. Alright? For her, she can easily say, Curtis knows how to cook. He has his 2 hands, he was brought up with a mom who knows how to cook. And by the way, for me, I know how to cook. So it's not about Soila going to the kitchen to cook for me because I can't cook for myself. I'm fantastic in the kitchen. For those of you who know me personally, you know that this is true. But she'll still go in the kitchen and prepare that food and come and give me. Why? Because she understands that in her offering that food, there is a principle she's doing. Because the role for her is to honor your husband. One of the ways in which you honor somebody, you can honor someone in many ways, but one of the most significant ways in which you honor someone is by serving them. Alright? So as I'm providing for her, and as she's serving me, we're not just doing it because, you know, it's what people do in marriage. There are principles that we are honoring them. Now, one of the reasons why we struggle with this is because, like I said, we don't understand why we are doing things. We don't understand how marriage works. If you've not watched the video that I did on systems back in 2020, just go have a look. But for the sake of this video, let me just rush through it very quickly. Marriage is an institution, all right? This institution is governed by certain laws. In other words, let me put it this way. You take a bunch of laws together, take a bunch of laws, you put them together, they become a system. You take a bunch of systems, you put them together, they become an institution. So when you're talking about a financial institution, there are many systems within that institution. When you're talking about a family institution, there are many systems operating within that institution. So marriage is an institution, which means there are laws, which when clustered together, they become systems. And these systems, when you cluster them together, they become institutions. Right? So the institution of marriage, which means that marriage functions by systems and laws. If you see a marriage that is successful, it was not by chance. Haikukuwa bahati. There are laws and principles that are in play in that marriage. All right? When you begin they're at play, okay. When you begin to express or live by certain principles, we can predict how your marriage is going to be in the next 10, 20, 50 years. By the principles that you are walking in. Alright? So when I say love, that I'm supposed to love her, love is a principle. But guess what? Love does not mean anything until it finds somebody to express it. So you can tell her that I love her all day, but until I come and express that love to her, the principle has not yet been exercised. He can say, oh, Curtis, I submit to you, I honor you, but until she expresses that honor through an action, the principle has not yet been effected. So marriage is a place, it's an institution that thrives by laws and systems. How you treat each other, the laws and the principles that you express towards each other is what determines whether that marriage is going to stand or is going to struggle and suffer in the course of time. Alright? Mm-hmm. So the role of a man and a woman is principle-based. My role is to love you. How do I love you? There are many things that I can do to show you love. But the most significant one is to give or to provide for you. Now, I am not providing for you because you can't do it for yourself. I'm providing for you because I understand that this principle needs to be effected. Alright? Soila is cooking for me and serving me, not because I can't do it for myself, and not because I've forced her to do it, but because she has decided by herself, I'm going to do this thing, because she understands the underlying principle behind what she's doing. Yeah, so understanding the reason behind certain actions that we do, understanding the principle behind certain roles, certain gender roles that we do, makes it easier to do it. People who don't have understanding tend to criticize everything. Why? We are in 2022. We are woke. We are a modern marriage. Why should we do those things that traditional people used to do? Gender roles are for old people. You know, us, we are millennials. Or you have a warped understanding of things. Because yes, you can still have understanding, but your understanding is already warped because of where you're getting the information from. Who is informing you about a particular role or assignment? Yeah. Is it your peers? Is it somebody who's gone before you and they've said, honestly, I have seen fruit from applying this particular principle, or I have not seen, or I have seen detrimental progress by not applying this particular principle. Yes. So it's where are you getting the information you're getting from? So if your acts, if you get act by the idea of getting to the kitchen and probably, or even serving your husband, where is that coming from? Yes, so the place of also trying to identify where your response is stemming from. Why is it that it's not easy for you to go to the kitchen? Okay, we're just using this particular word, the kitchen, because that's what Curtis used, in a place of honoring and serving your husband. Because I mean, many people say that food is a key to what? Is it food? Food is the way to the man's heart, to the stomach. Stomach and something and food and all that. So I think one of the many ways that, and also with my husband, I don't know if it's with every man, but for sure his first love language is service. And service can come in any form. It could be you, babe, can I have a cup of tea? They don't even have to ask, bring the cup of tea. And it's not just about food. It could be, babe, please pass me my laptop, or do you mind doing this particular act, or not really act, doing this particular thing for me in this particular time. So, I mean, if those things make you feel a certain way, sit down and ask yourself, why? Why is it making you feel that way? And let me tell you, some of these things are subconscious because it was fed from somewhere. You are fed, your mind was fed from somewhere.
a negative response to that particular act, such that when you feel like your husband or your wife is asking for that, you're like, no, that's not right. There has to be a better way of doing this matter, this thing, you know. So I think with this conversation, because let me tell you, we've put off this conversation for such a long time because
we wanted to be sure we understand this.
And we couldn't, there are few things we couldn't agree on. One, because of where I was coming from and where Curtis was coming from. Some of the negative implications that I had on this is because of my previous thoughts around gender roles and all that. And I'm glad with time, some things are made more clear. And I agree with certain roles finding expression
through chores.
Because these are things that God has given us to be able to serve one another in love. It's the same thing if you honor your man of God or if you honor your parent. If your dad was to ask you for, please buy me a gazette on your way home, you wouldn't say, Dad, you have a car and you have fuel in your car, so you just go get gazette. Because you love your dad. You'll even be feeling so happy to do it. And then amekutuma, like some of those precious things that our parents can. It's like, wow, my dad has considered me, you know, worthy of bringing him a newspaper. You know, I'm going to do it. Because sometimes they're like, if my dad really loves me, he'd ask me to do certain things for him. Or if my mom really loves me, she'd probably, I feel loved if I'm given certain responsibilities to carry for my parents. It's the same thing. If a husband or a wife asks you in a love, also again, how do you go about asking? Are you demanding? Like, you have to cook for me because you're my wife. Or you have to provide for us rent because you're the husband of this family.
That's also problematic.
You know, why is the place of, how are you asking of these services? Or how are you, yes, exactly that. How are you asking? Are you demanding? Or is it really genuinely there is a need? And how are you communicating it? Like, babe, I know you tell me you love me so often, but I love it if you show me in action, you know.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Your role, just like I said, let me just, because I feel like I'm repeating myself, but let me just put it out for the last time. Our roles are basically principle-based. My role is to love her. Her role is to submit and honor me. Now these two roles, which are actually principles, until they find expression through an action, then we're just playing. There's nothing we're doing. And most of the times, that action is going to be a house job. Because the home setup is the environment where most of you are together most of the time. Because the assumption is you are doing business, you're working, you are going to Jobo and all that. So the time that most of you come together to be together is in the house. So it is in the house, it is in the home. It is in the context of a house environment that role finds expression through chores. Most of the time, chores is the main aim. It doesn't have to be chores that now if you don't perform a chore, you've not shown your role. But it is chores because that's the home environment. All right? And one thing that I want us millennials to get out of is this mindset that we are millennials, we are modern, you know, we are woke. You know, gender roles are for old traditional marriage ideas. Let me tell you, those old traditional people, if you see that they were married for 40, 30, 40, 50 years, there is something they knew that we don't. Alright? I'm not talking about those people who are together because they have interests, either they have business or they don't have to go through the shame of society that they've divorced. I'm talking about people who've been married for 30, 40, 50 years. Yes, they've had issues like everyone else, but the fact that they've been together for that long, there is something they have figured out that we've not. Because when you look at studies, millennials are showing more divorces than our fathers and our fathers' fathers did. So it means there's something we are missing out that they are not. And most of it is in this area of gender roles, where we think that now because we are woke, we can bend gender and bend roles and then say it is societal, it is a social construct. Let me tell you, it may be a social construct, but the root is in the divine principle of how God created things to be.
I am happy with this generation because one, there's a lot of questioning.
Yes.
Why do I have to do this?
Yes.
And I like that. Questioning is important because now you question to gain understanding. And like doing things blindly.
That's it. How you question is important. You know, there are people who question, but the heart really is to dismiss and criticize.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
There are people who question because they are sincerely looking for knowledge and wisdom, but there are people who question because it's their way of criticizing.
Yeah.
Why? Why must we, you know?
Yeah.
So also how you question, like what Soila is saying, is really, really important.
So there's nothing, I'm happy, but again, as how we question and how we go about understanding the things that have been happening for centuries and years, it's just have an open heart, have an open mind, have an open understanding to just know, and also don't just settle for what you're telling you. Go and research. You don't have to agree with us. You don't agree. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take time to research on this particular conversation. And if you think you've said something that does not agree with you, or do you think it's off, come and tell us. You know, because also us, we've taken a kidogo time to do research and do the homework. And this is what we're just giving you off top of our minds. So you don't have to agree with us. If you still think there's still need and there's still space for to expand this particular conversation, please go ahead, do the research, talk to different people, talk to your parents, to your guardians, to your uncles,
and consult God.
And also consult God.
Marriage is not a social construct.
It was not.
It's a divine idea.
True.
Finding expression through society.
The
other reason number 2, why we are struggling with gender roles is, to say it is selfishness. Because if you look at the roles we are talking about, the examples we've even given, you see, for me to provide for Soila, for me to give, there's a level of selflessness I need to have. Because that money I'm providing for her, I could have done something with it. I have things I want to do. Even I had to get up to go and cook. We're just using these 2 examples because they are the main issues. She could say, me, I want to relax and like some photos on Instagram and do whatever. But she has to disturb her comfort. She has to inconvenience herself, go to that room, cook that food, come and serve me. Alright? I've not forced her. She's done it because she wanted to do, but it took sacrifice. There's a time I was just thinking about this thing and I was really pondering on it, and God opened my eyes to something, and it was so amazing. God made me realize that marital satisfaction, alright, marital bliss, what most of us call bliss, marital satisfaction. I'm not talking about marital happiness. Happiness is temporary, and happiness is usually subject to events and situation. I'm talking about satisfaction, bliss that cuts across whatever you are going through. You know, that kind of satisfaction and bliss whereby even if you are going through stuff in marriage, you're still at a place of satisfaction and rest. Marital satisfaction can only be accessed through one gate. And this is a gate called sacrifice. For you to live a life, for you to live a marriage that is consistently or constantly satisfactory, you have to live a life of perpetual mutual sacrifice. Like everything that we do, we put each other first. You know, like this money I'm about to spend, is there something I can do to Soila that she'll appreciate? This thing for Soila, this thing that I want to do with you know, this activity that I want to do, is there a way that I can do for Soila? Now I'm not saying you forget yourself, because that's foolishness. If you forget yourself, you will not have strength to serve the other person. But there's that heart, there's that attitude, there's that heart posture that you have, whereby you constantly think about the other person. Alright? You are not doing things for them because they can't do it for themselves. You are doing it for them because you know the joy it will put in their heart for you to do it. Alright? Talk to an average millennial today, or an average Gen Z. Ask them, what are you looking for in a marriage? What kind of characteristics do you want in a person? 80% of the points they'll give you is selfish. I want a guy who will do this for me and take me to this place and buy this for me and do this for me and do this for me. You ask the man, I want a chick who looks like this, a chick who does this. It's all for selfish and personal gain. You'll not hear somebody telling you, I want somebody whom I can serve. I want somebody whom I can express love in this and this and this way. I want someone who I can grow together as we sacrifice for one. People don't talk like that. It's all about the benefits you will get from the other person. And if that's the mindset we are getting into marriage with, I can guarantee you are going to struggle with gender roles. The issue about gender roles, it's not really what. It's just we are selfish. Because it will require you to sacrifice your comfort, sacrifice your energy, sacrifice your time, sacrifice your convenience to serve the other person, to love the other person, to honor and submit to them. So that is reason number 2. We are just selfish. And trust me, and you see, this is not, I'm not here pointing fingers at you. It is natural. As human beings, at our core, base, as human beings, we are naturally selfish. I usually tell Soila, nobody is selfish until you get married. You know, it's in marriage that you realize, you mean I can be this selfish? Before you got married, you never knew that would be. So it is natural for us to be selfish. But the fact that it is natural doesn't make it okay. And that's why you need God to be at that place whereby you constantly live a selfless, sacrificial life without complaining. Your attitude also is very important throughout this. It is not that kind of service. I'm serving Soila, but in my heart I have grumbled, I have complained. Paka, by the time I'm giving her whatever I'm serving. And you know, when someone has served you with a heart that is not 100%, you can feel it. You just sense, something is off, you know? So that's reason number 2, selfishness.
I think selfishness is really selfish in itself, because it doesn't see the benefit that you doing good to the other person has on you. Yes. For example, I'm going to take a different kind of chore. You go to work, you need to dress smartly and all that. Like serving you in a way, like me having your clothes ironed and set up nicely where you can easily access them is another form of service. Yes. I can easily decide to say, okay, clothes were washed, you can figure out how to go about ironing. And there are men actually who love to iron their own clothes. And they wake up in the morning and do that. But if I love you, I can easily take away that burden and just decide to iron for you those clothes. You know, when you look smart outside there, people will be like, hey, by the way, the clothes don't have to be like new and all that, just because of how they've been taken care. They've been ironed nicely. Hata kama kola imechapa tu kidogo, but imeironiwa vizuri, unakaa smart. Whatever you're wearing inside is not Omo and Ariel. It's just like white and nice. I mean, there's a way, if you look good outside, I also look good. You know, people like, you have really been, and you've seen it. If a man looks nice outside, a married man, there's a compliment to, or there's a perception that the wife at home is taking care of this man. If you look raggedy outside there, there's also questions in people's minds like, kweli huyu mjamaa ako na bibi? Kweli aliachwa na bibi yake? You know, they'll start questioning you and all that. So some of these acts that you do for one another, in a way they reflect back on our hearts. So it's not just selfishness tends to think that you're just giving and taking away from you and you're emptying yourself. In a way, giving, being selfless, has a way of just coming back to you. So it should not be such a big burden to give of yourself to your partner, and then you think like, now I'm empty and all that. And again, you might be giving and you're seeing nothing in return, and it's fine. You don't have now to stop and say, because nothing is being given in return, I'm not going to act in kindness or be good to you. You don't repay wickedness by wickedness. You know, some of those things, leave them to God. You continue doing good. You never know what it's gonna do. What it's going to do to the person.
And something just to put out there. You see, this year we did, in our anniversary for this year, we did a video where we were talking about marriage being a realm. And this realm is conscious. Alright? When the day of assessment comes, assume marriage is alive, assume marriage is a person, and you are living inside this person, the two of you as a couple, you are living inside this person. So when this person is coming to assess your marriage, the way marriage rewards the couple, the way marriage rewards the people in the marriage is that it comes and checks what principles are being applied in this marriage. What principles are alive in this marriage? There's service. These people serve one another. Oh, there's love. Oh, these people are constantly sacrificing to one another. And there are certain benefits and rewards, spiritual rewards, financial rewards, emotional rewards, rewards that pertain to everything with who you are as an identity and as a couple. There are rewards that are vested upon the individuals because of the principles that the marriage finds in place. Alright? So always have that in mind. Treat marriage like it's a pulsar that is conscious and it can be able to assess the state of your marriage. I'm a typical man. So when I go shopping, if I'm going to buy milk, I'll enter the supermarket and go directly to where the milk is, pick my milk, come to the cashier and go out. But something that Soila used to do with me when we go for shopping, we'll have a budget of 5 items. Most of those 5 items are in one area. But we'll enter that supermarket with Soila and we will go to every single aisle, every single shelf. By the time we go to buy it, by the time we are living in the 5 things, we've traversed and gallivanted the entire supermarket upstairs, downstairs, and if they have a basement, we've been to the basement. You know? And during the first days, I used to be so uncomfortable because I'm like, why are we taking so much time? But I later came to understand that as a lady, as a woman, there's just that happiness she gets. There's just that joy she gets by window shopping, even in things she knows she's not going to buy. Alright? And as a way of me practicing love for her, I had to change my attitude. And you see, attitude is very important. I had to change my attitude about shopping. And nowadays, funny enough, I'm the one who's like, hey, atujenda supai now. I do not go to the supermarket now. See, we go and do this. Alright? My attitude, I never like washing dishes. For me, I'd rather cook, you sort out the dishes. But I came to understand that, by the way, she's very happy when I wash the dishes, even when she's not asked me. So because of that, I had to change my attitude about washing dishes so that I accommodate her. So for those of you who are struggling with doing certain things for your spouse, the issue is not the thing. The issue is your attitude towards the thing. You're struggling to cook for your spouse. You're struggling to do shopping for her. You're struggling to buy flowers for her every couple of days when you're coming from work. You're struggling to do this, you're struggling to do that. Change your attitude. The issue is not the thing you're struggling to do. It is the attitude you have, which is what Soila was addressing. Where are you getting your attitude towards those things? Is it your upbringing? Is it the friends around you? Is it what you're consuming on media, social media?
It's so true. You know, friends can sit together and be like, me, I can't cook for my husband. Yeah. I'll employ a nanny, and I can't do that.
And let me tell you, attitude.
And now because you cook for your husband,
you start feeling like, you start feeling like you are the fool.
Yes.
You know?
Because you're the odd one out.
Yeah.
No. Be proud of being the odd one out who does the good things.
Yes. And be very careful with attitudes, because the way attitudes enter into your heart, you don't know. One day you'll just do something and you're like, shoot, I never used to do this. How come I'm doing it nowadays? Because you picked that attitude from someone somewhere who said something, and that thing went into your subconscious.
Yeah.
That's why the Bible says, guard your heart, because from it flows issues of life. What exactly are you guarding from your heart? Attitudes. It's the attitudes and the perceptions you pick from people and surrounding and all that. Yeah. Point number 3.
Final point.
Final point as to why we are struggling. And when I say we, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about us as a generation. We're struggling with gender roles and loving and serving one another because we have no agreement. So Soila mentioned agreement somewhere. Agreement involves communication. Communicate about these things. Before you get married, you're engaged to this person. Talk to this person. What are your thoughts about the role of a woman? What are your thoughts about the role of a man? How are you brought up? Is this something you saw growing up? Or is this something you have to start learning afresh? Talk about those things. Don't assume, she's a woman, the kitchen will be her place automatically. No, times have changed. There are women who believe in career women. They want nothing to do with the kitchen. Alright? So talk about these things. Know where somebody is. And it will be very unfair if this is the kind of woman this person is. It will be very unfair for you to get married and then you want to force them into that kind of culture. Alright? Love does not force. Corinthians says love does not insist on its own way. Even if your way is the right way, the fact that you love that person, you will not force them into it. Alright? As a lady, don't assume, he's the man, he's going to be the breadwinner. No! Times have changed. We have men nowadays who believe in being house husbands. They want to sit at home and water the gardens and play with the kids. So don't just assume. Talk and discuss these things. Right? And also don't pretend. Don't tell somebody, don't tell a husband to be, baby, I'll serve you breakfast in bed, I'll cook for you, nini. And then you get married and then you're like, me, you know? It's like you tricked that person into marrying you. That is not just unfair, it is wicked. And as a man, don't trick her, don't say, I'll provide for you, babe, don't ever worry. You get married like this, you quit your job because she has a higher salary, so you want to just stay there and eat her money. Wickedness. Alright? So discuss these things. They say two cannot work together unless they agree. So you must agree. Alright? This role, the role to love and the role to honor, how are we going to express it in our context as Soila and Curtis? All right? Because probably for you, it might not be cooking for each other. It may be something else. So discuss, are you in agreement with how you're going to express those principles for one another? The other thing is that marriage has seasons. Let me give you an example. There was a time in our marriage, I lost my job. And I think we've shared this in different forums where we go for speaking engagements. There's a time I lost my job.
Time to plug. If you want us to come to speak to youths, look at me what I'm saying. What am I saying? But yeah, it's time to plug. As it continues, this is a commercial break. We do speaking engagements at churches, institutions, small groups gatherings,
universities, campuses.
So if you want somebody to just come and talk to the youths, to people, I mean, to just generally people of our age, and just talk about relationship, marriage, we are ready. Reach out to us.
And once in a while, we organize our own event, whereby we are the ones invited.
2023.
So watch out. Yeah, so there's a time I lost my job. Soila had her job. Soila's job was very demanding. So she would get home at around 7, sometimes 7:30. Me, I've been in the house the whole day. All right? You know those moments when you are really trying things and they are not working. You're applying for jobs, nothing is coming. You're trying business, nothing is coming. So I was just at home most of the time, sending CVs and whatever. Soila had a job. Now, honestly, in all sincerity, am I going to stay at home the whole day and wait for Soila to come home at 7:30 in the night so that she enters the kitchen to start cooking? That would be very, very unfair, even if it is her role. All right? Even if according to agreement, it is her role to do it. I can't do that. I have to be considerate. She's coming from work tired. Therefore, as a person who loves her, I'm going to take that opportunity to be the one to cook for her and serve her. All right? And during that time, she used to do something very interesting. Soila would come home. I remember the first time she got, it was a new job. So the first time she got her salary, she came and said, "Hey babe, Sando, the salary has gotten into the bank. Here's my ATM card. Budget the money for us." You know, she could have done it herself, but she recognized this is the man, this is the husband. So we sat down with her, we budgeted the money, we said, okay, this will be your transport, this will be the rent, this will be the food, blah, 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 pocket money here and there. And then this is the interesting thing. After we've budgeted and she gave me the ATM, she was like, by the way, can I borrow 4K? This woman is amazing. It's her money. You know, she could have just said, give me 4K, but she came to ask me, can I borrow 4K? Of course, I was not going to say no to her. So I'm like, yeah, because me, you know, being a woman, I thought she just wanted to do something for her hair, you know, just lady stuff. Later on, I came to discover that, you know, my birthday was coming up, and the 4K she was actually asking for is a gift she wanted to buy for me. All right? And I usually think of that and I'm like, surely, why should I not cook for this guy? Why should I not spoil this guy? Why should I not wash for her and whatever? You know? So there are times your marriage will have seasons. And the gender roles that you guys have agreed in have to flip. And you have to be flexible during those times. That's why it is important to speak and agree and come to a common ground. Communicate.
That's it.
Communicate. Don't just assume he's a man. It's automatic for him to do this. Communicate. You guys must be at the same page before you get married.
Yes. Oh yeah.
If you've been married and you want to start these conversations in marriage, you are already too late. People nowadays are brought up differently. We're all coming from different attitudes and thoughts of schools of thought. You must be in agreement. All right? And there's a principle about marriage called oneness. Two cannot talk together unless they agree. There's a blessing, there's a reward you get in your marriage when you are united, when you're one. And this also comes in terms of your gender roles and such things. So that is the final thing. 3 things why we are struggling with gender roles. Number 1, understanding. We don't understand how marriage works. We don't understand laws, systems, institutions. We don't understand how marriage is governed by principles. And how the actions we do have an underlying principle. We don't understand this thing. That's the issue number 1. When you understand the underlying principle behind the actions that you are doing, you stop getting bothered with, you know, we are modern marriage, or this is traditional. No. You understand the principle. And I think this is what older couples, you know, our parents and our parents' parents understood about these things. There is a principle with those gender roles. Number 2, why we struggle, selfishness. We are just selfish by nature. And selflessness is something that is learned. You need the help of God to be selfless, all right? And you see, if I'm constantly providing for Soila in the hope that one day she'll also start serving and honoring me, I am not being selfless.
Yeah, that's selfish as well.
That is selfish because I am.
There's an hidden motive.
Yes, there's a motive. I am doing something to twist her, to manipulate her, to do something back in return. That is being selfish. Selfless is why you do. Whether it is done back to you or not, that is not your concern. Alright? Selflessness is not nifanyie nikufanyie, scratch my back, I scratch yours. A lot of people enter marriage with that mentality. That is selfish. Selflessness is where you do, you be kind, you provide, you give, you serve. And your mindset is not maybe one day she might serve. You are doing it tenda mema nenda zako. Alright? So we really need to get that selfishness checked. It takes the hand of God, and selflessness is practiced. It is practiced. There's no magical prayer you will do and tomorrow you've woke up and you are the most selfless person. You practice it. Alright? And even when you've become good at it over some time, sometimes it tends to creep in. You know, you've been so okay doing this thing for your wife, and then one day you wake up and you're like, Master, you know, that feeling still comes back again. So it is a constant walk of sacrifice. Sacrifice is something that is practiced. It is practiced. Right? And finally, third reason why we struggle is we have no agreement. We never communicated, we just assumed things about each other, and then we start fighting. I feel like I've talked so much in this video.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
They want to hear you.
It's been agreed upon.
you know there are people in this channel who are pro Soila more than they are pro Curtis.
Wow, really?
So when Curtis talks a lot, they always come to the comment section, hey, give Soila time to speak. So speak to your people.
No, you don't have to open. I don't have to speak if I have really nothing to add, or I was going to say the same things.
Yeah.
So you've clearly laid out everything that should have been laid out.
Yeah.
What I'd probably just do is just reiterate. No.
Reiterate.
Emphasize.
Yeah.
Your word it has refused. So it's just emphasizing on what you've already shared. But I'm not going to do that because time is moving and we have something else to shoot. But yeah, it is what it is, guys. The marriage days, and I really love when you do these videos. We should do more of these random conversations, and yeah.
So in closing, this is now the conclusion. If I love you, can I express that love by providing for you? Okay. Can I also express that love by cooking for you and serving you? Okay. If you honor me, can you express that love by cooking for me and serving me? Okay. Can you also express that love by providing for me, buying me something, you know, providing even in the other areas, not just money? Is it possible? Yes. And what does that tell you? It is not necessarily about the action. It is the principle being communicated through the act. Comment, share, subscribe. Most importantly, do not skip. Yeah. Otherwise, guys, cheers.